The Roman Gladiator, an armed combatant whose purpose was to entertain the masses of the Roman Republic and Roman Empire in violent clashes with wild animals, other gladiators, and the criminally condemned, those sentenced to death, which is a lot more common then than such a punishment is now. Gladiators could be volunteers who risked their lives as well as their legal and social standing by appearing in the arena. Those condemned to death could win their freedom by becoming victor in bouts, however more than likely they would perish early or be sold to a Ludus to become a champion. Like, yeah, okay Papa, that's cool and all, but why do we need to know this? Because today, I am reviewing Domina, a game for Windows and Mac. It was developed and published by DolphinBarn, the team also responsible for Corporate Lifestyle Simulator. I genuinely didn't know this, and I own CLS. They're based in Ontario, Canada, eh? But anyway, they released Domina in April of 2017, and I bought it within a week of its release. I wasn't aware of the title until it dropped, but it's a cheap game at only £6.99, that's $8.58 for you New England heathens. So, Domina means dame in Latin. I found a few other meanings too, but they aren't very ad-friendly, so let's leave those out. Not that I ever make any money from advertisements anyway, because my channel's so fucking small. But anyway, the purpose of the game is, and I'm quoting from the Steam store page, to acquire, train, upgrade, and whip your brutish gladiators towards bloody victory in the ruthless arenas of ancient Rome. Its overall and recent Steam user reviews are very positive, so it is a very well received game. But enough about the Steam store page, onto the actual game. It has a pixel graphics aesthetic which I think looks great, especially with the particle effects of the blood flying everywhere in battles. It's a really good way to minimize strain on your rig with an art style like this. At its heart, this game is a management sim with a few battles thrown in for good measure, or a lot of battles, I guess. Basically the game's bloody and fucking brutal, I love it. Now, normally, in management games you have a clear goal to be working towards, which is nice, but Domina says, nah, fuck that, just fight and make sure that within a year's time you have beaten at least 3 out of the 9 regional champions to be considered for the final championship in Rome. So overall, the game is you managing your Ludus and worrying about your best gladiators, of whom sometimes die in horrific ways on the arena sands. It's not a particularly difficult game, but it is slightly randomized, so you could start off with some amazing gladiators or some god-awful ones that you'll have to train. You can attend pit fights, chariot races, and more. You can buy gladiators from the legate or slaves that you'll have to whip into shape. You'll have to upgrade your Ludus and maintain your gladiators' health so they're in the best condition to fight. Also hire staff to generate the best equipment and perks. Overall, for only £6.99, this game has a lot more than its asking price of content. So it's a very simple yet complex at the same time type of game. It has a gameplay loop that will have you pitting your best against other Ludi and their ilk. And yes, Ludi is the correct plural of Ludus. Go fuck yourself. Now, the Roman gladiators really existed. This was a real time in history, from 105 BCE to 404 CE. That's official contests. Now, I grew up in Chester, in England, which is a city that was built by the Romans, occupied by the Romans, and has a lot of Roman architecture in it. A lot of the history of Chester is down to the Romans. And so that's why the Roman era really interests me, because it tells me a lot about, where I grew up. Obviously, there are some stark differences to where I grew up and, how they grew up. It's like... So yeah, this time in history is just very interesting to me, and that's probably why I gravitate to games about the Romans, for example. There's also the fact that the Romans were amazing military tacticians and some pretty fabulous architects as well. So yeah, I guess it's because I, grew up so close to such sites of Roman history that I really am interested by the Romans. There's that and the fact they were, bloody brutal and they were famous tacticians. And, it's romanticized in history. You can't help but look up at gladiators as sorts of heroes. Despite the fact most of the time they weren't, they're actually the exact opposite, like convicted felons and murderers, but you get the point. These are people that fought in crowds and they murdered people, but they got the gratitude and the, adornment of fans. They grew a following, and from that came their social status. Actually, I've just ordered myself a Roman Gladius from Medieval Factory. Now, you might be saying to yourself, but Papa, what do you need a Roman Gladius for? You're not a gladiator. I know, I just like swords, okay? God, can't I have a hobby? Now, sadly, there isn't that much more to say, So this review is going to be short and sweet, but it's one of those games you can hop in, play it casually, leave it for about a week if you're busy, and you won't feel lost when you come back to it. These are games that I like to play on my downtime, especially in my work week, as my work week is very hectic. I, at the moment, work very long hours, and I don't get a lot of time to play games during the work week. I have to wait for my days off to play. So games like this are a godsend, really. Yeah, I've got a few more games that I want to review that will also be this short. I'm sorry about the reviews not being very long, but hey, it is what it is.